Welcome to On the Table with Ashley. This is our food and connection series that explores the many ways people create connection through food, from community gardens and classrooms to dinner tables across the world. The series highlights stories of gathering nourishment, memory, and care. Through insightful conversations with experts from all walks of life, the vulnerable conversations shared over dinner, the scents and recipes that carry memories of home, and the grassroots efforts communities make to combat food insecurity and support one another. Through these conversations, we examine how food unites people, preserves culture, conjures memory, and creates identities. Ultimately, the series reveals the profound role food plays in nearly every human experience. Our guest today is Kirsten Levitt. Kirsten is the executive director and executive chef of the Stone Soup Café, a community organization providing pay what you can meals out of Greenfield, Massachusetts. Born and raised in New York City, she's a self-taught chef who has been cooking and catering for large parties for the past 35 plus years. Enjoy.
Kirsten Levitt, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to talk with you about Stone Soup Cafe and everything that you've been doing there and then everything that the organization does.
Thanks so much, Ashley. It's what a pleasure to be invited on to the podcast. This is my first official podcast, so I'm just thrilled. Thanks so much for the honor.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Well, I always like to start hearing a little bit about where you grew up and what kind of kid you were.
I was born and raised in New York City. I'm a Washington Heights girl. I think Lin-Manuel did our neighborhood justice, although I'm twice his age. And so I lived through different immigrant transitions before the current cultural makeup of that part of the city. I was a very precocious child. I was always curious. I was always getting in the way, and I was always trying new things. All of those have served me greatly in all of the different works that I've done throughout my life. I left New York City at 21 and I lived in Ohio. And I lived there for 13 years. It's where I had my son. And then in 1999, I graduated. I went back to college as a non-traditional student to become a school teacher. And when I graduated in 99, I moved to Western Massachusetts to Greenfield. And I've been here ever since.
And tell us about Stone Soup Cafe and how long you've been associated with it.
Yeah. So Stone Soup Cafe actually started with Jeff Bridges, the actor, who was a student of Bernie Glassman, American Zen master, who's now passed away. And Jeff was very interested in No Kid Hungry. And as Bernie's student, he and Bernie did a lot of musing about the world and hunger and feeding people. Bernie was also very interested in that. They wrote a book together, The Dude and the Zen Master, but Bernie had already written a book called Letters to the Cook. And so there was a lot of synchronicity in not just their partnership as master and student learning Buddhist Dharma, but also around the ways that they viewed how people should be treated. And so there's that. So it started as the Let All Eat Cafe in Montague back in 2009. And they needed to move the meal to a more central location. And I took that meeting as the clerk of the church in Greenfield. I'm associated with All Souls Church, and the cafe has lived in the basement of All Souls Church since 2010. And in 2011, Ariel Pliskin, who had worked for Bernie and then had an idea to create a social entrepreneurial cafe, a pay what you can model that further blurred the lines between social economics, have and have not. And he led the community in a sociocratic circle discussion that happened over 4 weeks, where the community named the cafe Stone Soup Cafe. So, from its inception, people are at the forefront and center of everything that we do. Inclusivity and dignity are at the forefront of what we do, promoting belonging and agency, all these things that Bernie really espoused, because for years he had gone on street retreats and he had lived as unhoused person and gone to soup kitchens. And he says, yeah, there's a lot of love, but there wasn't a lot of dignity. And dignity included choice and agency and the right to be there, to feel like you belong, to feel like you were safe, to feel like you were a contributing member in whatever way you could possibly contribute. And so all of those things are built into the foundations of the cafe. We took all of his teachings and we use them to this day. So Bernie started Socially Engaged Buddhism through his practices with the Zen peacemakers. He was the head of the Zen peacemakers. And socially engaged Buddhism it operates on three tenets. So the first tenet is openness, so letting go of fixed ideas. And the second tenet is bearing witness. So you actually watch and not interfere, but bear witness to the joy and suffering in the world. And then given those things, right, given that you let go of your fixed ideas and judgments and you've seen what's happening, then the third tenet is loving action. And moving into loving action was Bernie and Jeff's creation when they started the Let All Eat Cafe and then its iteration as the Stone Soup Cafe, right? Loving action was there was no food available for people who couldn't afford food on the weekends in Franklin County, in all of the county. Bernie said, let's start a cafe and have a luncheon on Saturdays. So at least there's food on Saturdays. And if people need to take extra food home so that they have food on Sunday until the next community serving happens, let's make sure they can do that. And so Stone Soup is actually this creation out of a loving action plan with so much intentionality about how we work with our community members, how we collaborate, how we partner, how we move forward to make sure that everybody feels that they have dignity and worth while fulfilling their most basic human need and right, which is good food.
So it's amazing. And the cafe does so much. So I'm just going to list a couple of the things that I saw
Mm-hmm.
on the website. So I would love to talk a little bit more about the pay what you can model.
Yeah, sure.
And then you have something called the really, really free market. And online, it looks like really fresh, wholesome, whole food. So I want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
You have a community store, monthly soup nights, an annual harvest supper, and solidarity workshops. And I can see how all of this goes into the socially engaged Buddhism and these three tenets you were talking about. And we may not have time to talk about all of them, but I'd love for you to pick one or two to share with us. And then I'm also really interested to hear how you fund the organization. I know you said it still lives in the church. Does the church help fund it? I know you have a lot of volunteers, but volunteerism alone is not going to pay for the food. Are farmers donating? Just you've made this work for such a long time. I'm really, really interested to hear how you're doing
Yeah.
it.
So I think I'll try to be as pithy as possible. So our main program until COVID hit was our community meal on Saturdays. And pay what you can then looked like an anonymous donation box where people could drop whatever it was, a quarter, $50, whatever it was. No questions asked, no names taken. It's changed a little bit these days because everything's outdoors. So we're still doing triple the number of meals that we did pre-COVID. So between 550 and 600 meals every single Saturday. And when COVID hit and shutdowns happened, we started a delivery program. So about 50% of the meals go out to people in the county within a 12-mile radius, 100% volunteer delivery drivers. They never ask for anything other than, what's my route? But very early on in COVID, people were having trouble getting groceries. And so they asked us, do you have extra food? And we immediately created Everybody's Community Store. It wasn't called that to begin with, but that's what it's called today. And Everybody's Community Store includes just about everything you can think of as long as we can either purchase or procure it. So it has personal care items that comes from another nonprofit called Hope and Comfort in the eastern side of the state. It has fresh produce. Some of it we buy in, some of it comes from the Food Bank of Western Mass. They have two farms. that produce food. Some of it comes from local farms that are sharing their leftover food with us, right? We have a gleaning organization, Rachel's Table. They go out and glean as soon as the season starts, and so we've already had gleans this year. So yeah, it was picked fresh and deliberately for our program. Some of that food goes into the meal, some of it goes out to the public for them to cook their own. Then the Food Bank of Western Mass has dairy and frozen proteins and canned proteins and things like that, non-perishable, but they don't have everything. And so we spend about $400 to $500 every week going to a local warehouse where they're actually food rescue, and so it's a discount food store that they run. But they give us access to their warehouse, and we pick things like gluten-free or organic, non-perishable goods. It's all non-perishable, but including snacks. Like, come on, everybody should be allowed to have a snack, right? Granola bars. They don't always have these things at the food bank, and we have to think about 20% of our population that we see are having housing issues, whether they're couch surfing or camping or living in their car. And so we want them to have ready to eat food, and the food bank doesn't often have ready to eat food or pop top food, but this other place does. And then we have other places that do like food drives for us. Those aren't actually the best thing for people to do. And I hate to say that because everybody loves to give some food to a food drive. But just imagine those low sodium green beans that sat on your shelf for a year, then it went to a food drive, and nobody wants those low sodium green beans, neither did you. And so then you pass it on, and then it gets passed on. And guess what? It gets recycled into another food drive, or it goes to waste. In reality, there are mechanisms where if you gave $1, we would be able to put all our dollars together and use the power of wholesale purchasing. And that's what food banks do also. So, there's a both and situation there. The community soup nights are in direct, like a lot of what we do is in direct relation to community requests. So the community store, it's a direct request to community. The really, really free market happens at Harvest Supper. That's where it happens. And that
Okay.
all of that produce is fresh, and like maybe it's picked 2 days before. And it's all left over from a chef's dinner. The Harvest Supper is a chef's dinner that I create. We usually have between 16 and 18 individual entree items. And it's just like the Stone Soup story on steroids, right? Everybody gives something, and we create this huge feast, and 1,000 people come and eat the feast, and they take the extra food, and it's wonderful. We just had our 20th anniversary. We didn't start it, but we've produced it for the last 10 years. So it's a wonderful tradition. It's uniquely Greenfield. If you ever come to the East Coast, please
Okay.
come in August 22nd. So, and then again, everything's done because community's asking. So community was asking to sit and dine together. So much of the ethos of Stone Soup was built on breaking bread together. The great equalizer in anything that you do that's food related is the sitting down with food together and getting to know each other, talking about what you like or don't like about that food, or what's your favorite, or what that food reminds you of, right? It was really lacking. 5 years of not sitting together was killing us. Just our hearts, not our business. Our hearts were just so heavy. And so one day I was like, you know what? Let's just have a community soup night. Let's figure out a way to turn our prep room back into a dining room. We invite the community in the third Monday of the month from October to May, because we don't have any climate control in our building. So you don't want to come have soup June through September in our building. So, but we do that. And we usually have somewhere between 60 and 100 people come and eat soup with us and have vibrant conversations. We've done it for 2 seasons now, and I'm really thrilled that we've been able to do that. We have been very blessed to have had a lot of association with the University of Massachusetts. And one of our associations has been with a professor of anthropology, Boone Shear, who sat on our board and he runs a program that is not officially affiliated with UMass called the Basic Solidarity Economies program. And so we asked Boone and one of his graduate students to come and look at our pay what you can model, because people were always calling our meal free, and other people who have means were thinking that they were taking food out of poor people's mouths. But we do food from all over the world. It's restaurant quality food. It's 100% scratch cooked. We have 100% gluten-free commissary. So the most at need, most at risk diners know that their food chain is safe. And we wanted to make sure that people understood that paying what you can, first of all, instills dignity in yourself. Even if it's a quarter, you are still doing something. Paying what you can could also be, I can't give you a penny today, but I'm going to stay and help clean up, right? So it's not just transactional dollars. So we had UMass looking at this, like, how can we shift the culture? And so they did a whole report. One of the things that they said was Stone Soup is a hub for mutual aid, and we should be offering mutual aid workshops. So the Solidarity Economy workshops are workshops where one of our program manager who's gone through the BSc program and is a graduate of UMass works with other groups that are offering mutual aid, in some manner. We've had Timeshare, we've had Poor People's Army, we've had the Finders Collective, Redistro. These are all places that are local to Western Massachusetts. We've had them come in. We serve a dinner. So again, we're providing another opportunity to sit and eat together. And then they do about 45 minutes presentation on what their organization is doing around mutual aid. Some of them are organized more hierarchically, but still providing a vehicle. Mutual aid is providing the vehicle where everybody can bring what they have and share so that waste is reduced, so that people get their needs met. A friend of mine used to say, good old Uncle Carl always said, take what you need, give what you can, right?
Yeah.
So it fits right in with our mission too, of like, we help each other. And our, the Stone Soup story is all about bring what you got and put it in the pot, and everybody's a little bit makes the great pot better.
So has the work that you've done in this basic solidarity economies changed the way the community views Stone Soup Cafe? Are you seeing different people come and participate and eat with you and give more because they don't feel like they're taking from somebody who needs it more? What has
Yeah.
changed as a result of that work?
So I think that stewarding a culture shift from scarcity to abundance is always part of the work. Yes, there are people that show up for the workshops that don't necessarily come and eat, but then they say, "Oh, but we could come and eat," and sometimes they do. I think I have said for years and years, there's no us and them, there's only us, right? It's only us. There's like, there's no it's really not about Democrats, Republicans, or independents. It's about humans. And there's something innate in human beings that does this divisive thing, but it's really, time is not a real thing, race is not a real thing, even politics is not a real thing. It's they're all devices that create barriers between people and marginalize people and other people. And in reality, food is a basic human right and need. We sit down over a plate of food. You're just people, right? So there's only us, and we have to take care of us. There's the collective we who takes care of us. And so when you're stewarding this message, that's the message that you have on the broken record repeat. There's just us. There's plenty for us to have. We will always have plenty because we choose to, right? We choose to have this mindset. Instead of looking at this person and saying, oh, they're unhoused, they're this, they're that, whatever. Well, look at this person who's sharing the fact that this is their favorite soup. This butternut bisque is their favorite soup. It's mine too. Look, we have something to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is that I don't necessarily see every person because I'm in the kitchen and they're out on curbside. That's one of the things I miss about the way the cafes run right now is pre-COVID, every Saturday, I went out and I talked to every member of our community. I knew what they liked for food. I knew what their food allergies were. I knew what their needs were. I knew how their grandchildren were, or their children, or their dog even, like, because I was very in touch with the community. And the hardest part about running the cafe the way we do now is how disconnected I feel at times.
Do you think that you could change that? Have you thought about it?
Well, yeah, we've actually been working on this plan for 5 years. And the thing that we're waiting for is the other place to move. And there, right? So we're waiting on somebody else's timeline. But the plan is to have our own building and for us to operate 7 days a week, lunch and dinner, and for it to be a pay what you can cafe, and for us to be able to continue to make offerings of all kinds of different opportunities for people to learn how they can connect with community, not just at Stone Soup, but we want to be a community hub. We want the friends to come in and say, hey, we do this. Want to be part of that too?
Right.
You know.
So there's so much I want to talk about, but first I want to understand how you're fundraising.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so you have some donations from the Food Bank of Western Massachusetts, from Hope and Comfort, from Rachel's Table, and then you go to this local warehouse, the Food Rescue, but you need the money to buy that. So do you have government funding? Does the church help fund individuals?
So the church hosts us, and in exchange, we pay 100% of all the utilities of that building. So it's our rent. They support us by allowing us to take over their entire basement. When COVID happened, we were the only occupants in the building, and we've taken up all 3,000 square feet and busting out of it. They support us because members of the church are individual donors as well. And they talk about the cafe in glowing terms. And many of the members of the church are also volunteers at the cafe. We have over 500 unique volunteers every year. It's You'd be like, wait, you're only doing 1 day a week. Yep, we're making scratch food for 600 people, and it's a 3-course meal. It's always soup or salad. Right now we're in salad season. Soup season is Labor Day to Memorial Day. A main entree, 2 vegetables, a starch, and a protein. There's an omnivore protein and a vegan protein choice. And then there's dessert. So it's always a 3-course meal, no exceptions. And so, it takes a lot of people to chop. And when you're making 17 or 18 entrees for Harvest Supper, like hundreds of people come to do Harvest Supper. It is quite the circus at times. So about 45% of our operating revenue, which this year is anticipated to be over $750,000, comes from individual donations. We do work on relationship, and I have a wonderful staff member who does fundraising and marketing, and she's brilliant.
Do you have an endowment?
We do not. So we don't necessarily get government grants. We had pass-through monies, but in this current political climate, most of those pass-through funding streams have either been discontinued or reduced greatly. And so so then we have to find other avenues. We have a half-time grant writer. We're submitting, I don't know, 8, 10 grants a month. We go for big things and, just try. So we just went for an Aspen Institute grant that we didn't get, but there were 1,600 applicants. And the letter that they wrote back to us said, we really loved your ideas. We're going to talk to other people about your ideas, right? Because our idea is about ending hunger in our county from edge to edge. We do get corporate sponsorships. We do get foundational sponsorships. We just got notified that a foundation that's been funding us for about 4 years just doubled down. There are community foundations. So the Community Foundation of Western Mass got an anonymous person said, here, give extra money to all these people. We just were awarded $30,000. So it's like, there's all of that. And then I run revenue streams. So, not-for-profits can make profit as long as the profit goes back into the community, right? Or into the organization. So we run a catering business. Last year, the catering business brought about 11% of the gross. So I'm not unbusy. That's what happens in nonprofit. And we're looking at ways to create a more sustainable so that I don't totally burn out. But 15 years of this work, 16 years of this work, really, you get used to all the
Doing it
different,
all.
well, there's so many, like, as you grow, okay, I could just do that. So last year I was like, oh, let's start a soup CSA. I mean, we're Stone Soup after all. I thought it would be 25 subscription, 135 subscriptions later, it brought in $15,000 worth of revenue. We started a presence at the farmers market last summer. We're back again this summer. We're selling gluten-free baked goods, right? Where the custody chain of gluten-free is really a real thing, so people know. And our outings are netting $500-600 at a market, which is not bad. We're more than breaking even, but we're growing that part of the business. And
And
so
you're
it just
getting the
keeps
word
going
out.
on. So in the fall, we'll start some kind of like supper for four takeaway, already prepared. Everybody's jumping on that bandwagon. We're thinking about starting that. And all in service of how do we ensure that our staff, which used to be tiny and now is moderate, is paid, how the product that has integrity is brought into the door. Because if it's not at the food bank, which it often is not, unfortunately, then I have to purchase it. And so how do I purchase it and where am I purchasing it from and how am I supporting the local economy are all things that are considered. So yeah, and we don't have an endowment. Maybe someday. We have a small fund started for the big capital project, but that will be, I don't know. 2 years ago they said $8 million. With today's inflation, maybe it's going to be a $12 million thing that I don't know. We'll figure it out.
So the 750,000 for the operating revenue is amazing and you're spending it. So for the building, it's going to be a totally different campaign. But at first, maybe you have to find the building and then you
Oh no,
can,
we know
oh,
the
you,
building.
oh, you do. Okay.
We have a building and we're waiting for those occupants to get into their new building. And there have been snafus that have delayed it for 3 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's like the shortest hop that it could be is 2 years from now for us to acquire the building. And then we have to renovate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And you're going to your goal is to buy the building or lease it, buy it.
We'll buy the building. We'll own the building.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
You
going
got
to
a
be a
big
real
capital
thing.
campaign coming.
It's going to be a real thing. I'm a firm believer that everything happens in its time for a reason. And so here we are. If we had built it and we're in it today, like if we had been able to start 3 years ago and built it and we were in it today, today's cafe is totally different than it was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, we ran a culinary training institute, a 12-week training course to put people into the restaurant field. That training course's funding disappeared at the end of 2024. So we're not doing that anymore. But originally, the first plans for the building were do this, have the Culinary Institute in it, have a food hub in it, make way for other nonprofits to be working within our environment so that we're building collaboration and partnerships. Really working on food justice. Collaborations and partnerships will stay. Food justice work will stay. In-person dining will return. It's the biggest part of our dream is like the whole reason we wanted a building was to sit together. The whole reason we want to do 7 and 7, that's lunches and dinners, is because we want people to have one place to go where they know the one set of flow and hours, because it's not fair. And this probably happens all over the United States. There isn't just one charitable organization that's doing all the meals. And that means that you have to know, where is the meal? What time is the meal? What are the rules at that meal site? You know, do you eat in, or do you have to take it away? And like, if you're living with food insecurity, poverty, being displaced without housing, addiction, medical issues, or mental health issues, or if you're living with any of those things, trying to juggle how many places you have to go in a week just to get fed is undignified. And it goes right back to what Bernie said. There's a lot of love, but there's no dignity. And for me, I just want to build one place where there's all the love and all the dignity, and people can show up and be taken care of, be their best selves, be part of it. Like, not just us, it's a two-way street. That's the other thing about mutual aid, right? One day you might have to take the whole bag of groceries, but a week later or 2 weeks later, your circumstances may change and you may give back two bags of groceries, right? There's always this like belief in our power to be part of something, right? That the give and take is a real thing. And what people love to say, that they just take, and it's like, no, they're all of us, and we all need to be part of a system, and we all need to understand that at one moment we might be giving, and at the next moment we might be taking, and that neither of them is shameful.
So this series that I'm doing is all about food and gathering, and even though all of your meals right now are not in person, you still are doing the Saturday meals and the harvest festival and all, all
Mm-hmm.
or dinner and many things where you are in person, and you have over the years. Can you tell us something that you've learned about people just by watching them gather in person?
They're delighted to be with one another. I mean, first of all, like, first and foremost, I remember the first harvest supper that we did during COVID was a drive-through mass event. The next one, we had people sitting at tables with each other because we had gotten far enough along in the endemic, right? The joy of them being able to see a friend or make a new friend, or it's explosive, like, it's palpable what happens you're in the middle of a town common, and there's so much laughter and joy and sharing and conversation and delight. It's palpable. You can feel it in the air. Like, people love to sit with each other, visit with each other. Even the shy people, somehow they find a way, even if it's just connecting with one person instead of 12, right? I'm of the generation that TV dinners was a really cool thing to do. And my dad hated it because we weren't sitting at the table talking to each other. My mother loved it because we were thrilled as kids to be able to watch Star Trek and eat our Swanson's TV dinner, right? But she too also, like, you could have one TV dinner a week and the rest of them were at the table. We sat at the kitchen table, and we doing that builds so many resources in each of us. I don't want to call them skills. I want to call them, they're the tools that we put in our toolboxes. They're our resources. How do you speak to somebody? How do you share about a hard moment? How do you resolve a conflict? How do you repair a relationship? How do you ask questions? How do you find out something new about another person? Like, at Harvest Supper, we have cards that we put on tables that are like discussion starters. There's a game called We're Not Really Strangers. Fascinating game. You might want to pick it up. But it really brings out when you first saw me, what did you think? And just inviting just total truth.
Honesty.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that, over the years, over and over. And then something that's humbling for me is just that I'm the name and the face of an organization that has a lot of names and faces behind me, but I'm out front. When people recognize me and they remember something about me and ask me, It's very touching. It's very humbling. How's your son? Whatever happened to your garden? Have you made any new recipes this year? What's your new favorite? Don't ask me. I mean, like, because there's so many. But, like, just, it's so touching when somebody can connect with you and care about you. And I can't believe that's a one-way street.
No, I don't think it is. So
Right.
another person that I spoke with as part of the series is Ken Aliba. He's a food historian and he's written a number of books, and he wrote a book about the ritual of dinner all over the world.
Hmm.
And the sort of depressing thing, common thread that he found is that the family dinner is dying. And a lot of the things you said and that you are revitalizing, I would say. And hopefully, then the people who are coming, if it's once a week, are bringing it into their own lives as much as possible. Is that we forget, if we it's sort of like a muscle. If we don't practice how to sit down and disagree respectfully, or how to be curious and say, why do you think that, instead of that's wrong, we lose those skills. And I feel like, I mean, so much of what I do with my podcast and with my brand is all about rekindling that human connection. And it wasn't just COVID. I think it started to degrade long before COVID. I think COVID sort of made it worse right all at once. But the good news is we can revitalize, rekindle, relearn. And everything that you're doing is reminding people, maybe teaching people who haven't experienced it, but reminding people who had it that they can have it again, that they can have it all the time. And obviously, it's beautiful that you're tackling food insecurity, but really what you're tackling is what I care about most, and that's human connectivity and all the layers of it. It's not just, the soup. It's not just the harvest supper, but the solidarity workshops. It's just this bringing together that is really, really beautiful. And then the fact that you can serve a 3-course meal that's from scratch and truly gluten-free and whole food, and it's really astonishing. So I hope that you take moments to step back and just like pat yourself on the back. I mean, your whole team, it's really quite remarkable. And that as a nonprofit, you've been able to keep this going since 2009. So many nonprofits can't do that. It's bravo, just bravo.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So you said you have these conversation starters. It's funny because I talk a lot about, I believe strongly in gathering, and one of the things that I talk about and I've started to do, and some of my friends do, is to sort of have these questions. We have some good friends, and if you go to dinner at their house, you know that on the back of your name is a question, and there's going to be a time during dinner when you need to answer that question. And I really believe that it allows people to get to know each other on a deeper level. And people are generally pretty willing to be vulnerable and share if
Mhm.
asked directly. But so much of the time we don't ask, we just sort of stay at the surface. So what do you think makes somebody feel welcome at your tables? And maybe it's just that they know before they even get there that they're welcome.
It starts with someone walking in the door. And, all during COVID, I had a staff member who they've since retired, but they had a big booming voice. And somebody would come in, and if they were somebody we knew, I felt like it was cheers. Warm, like, and everybody, like Louise washes dishes. She's 80. She's been with us for I don't know how many years, probably 14, almost 15 years. And she gets to the top of when you come in the door, there's a ramp that you walk down. And so everybody's like, Louise, hi. But when it's somebody we don't know, we still say, hi, welcome. So great you're here. Are you here to volunteer? Like there's this immediate, you know, sense of you're welcome to the family, right? And hopefully not in the worst of ways of dysfunctional family, but more in the like your experience has begun. You are now part of something bigger than yourself, right? So when people come in to dine at Solidarity Economy or Soup Night, there is somebody there greeting them. Hi, so great to see you. Oh my God, Tommy, I can't believe you showed up tonight. I didn't think you were going to be in town. Who'd you bring? It's all of that. Invitation, invitation, invitation. We're so happy to have you. And all of it's genuine. It's not, it's, like a lot of times when you're running a for-profit business, hospitality it rules everything. And so there's also the capitalist idea that I need to make sure that they have a good, it's the pay what you can concept allows us to be like, pay what you can, do what you can. We're so happy to have you. Another person in our midst. And if you're new, oh my goodness, I'd love to get to know you. Can I come sit with you in 5 minutes? And there's so many of us, volunteers, board members, staff members, community members that do that. They like, I don't know, maybe we have a lot of gregarious people in Western Mass. We probably do. We have a lot of artists out here. We have a lot of creative thinkers. We have a lot of visionaries here. But I can tell you that it doesn't matter what the education level is, the social and economic status is of the person who is greeting that other person. There's something, that connectivity that you were talking about, that is so heartfelt. And I do think that one of the advantages that happened during COVID was we recognized, those of us who recognized our disconnect felt the deep, deep need to reconnect. And that was huge. I agree with you that disconnectedness started long before COVID. It actually started when computers and internet happened, because I was a school teacher and I watched it. And as a barely functional adult who's on her phone way too much, like, how do you disconnect, Kirsten? I play picture this on my phone, puzzle pictures. Why? Because it's soothing. Because it's soothing, right?
Yeah. It's fascinating. So my younger son is a junior in high school and he's going to be applying to college. And in his English class, their last assignment was to brainstorm ideas for a college essay and then write one. And he wrote about cooking with me and family dinners. And now he cooks with his friends on the weekend. And it was pretty remarkable. And he's on his phone a lot too. And so are my husband and I. Like, it is so hard not to be. But I think if we can bring back something as seemingly small as the family dinner, it actually will go such a long way to regenerating that connectivity. And we're still going to have our phones. Like, they're not going away, but we have to learn how better to live with them and retain our humanity, you know?
Yeah, it's like the school teacher jargon here. You know, the marshmallow experiment?
Yes.
Right. It's that. The phone is the marshmallow.
And the problem with the marshmallow experiment, and I'll just state it for if we do keep this in, is that, and this is usually done with, I think, young children, where you put them in a room, you put marshmallows out, and how quickly they take a marshmallow. Or you say, you can have one now, or in 5 minutes you can have two. And most of the kids cannot wait the 5 minutes and they eat the one. And it tells you a lot about what that kid will grow up to be. And I think most people go for the first marshmallow, right? So if that is how our brains are wired, then our phones are marshmallow on steroids.
And also, there is an addictive quality to the screen itself and to what's happening and to the stimulation that our brains have now become used to. So there's all of that. But delayed gratification is a concept that most people don't understand. But hungry people understand delayed gratification really well, right? I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. Oh, thank God I have a meal, right?
It's
So
really
there's,
interesting. Yeah. I've actually never studied that. I wonder if you can teach delayed gratification. It's worth looking into for all the school teachers listening. I'm interested to hear, you've talked several times about getting input from the community. How do you do that?
oh, well, direct on the ground feedback is always taken in whatever form it comes in, including, somebody's really unhappy and they express themselves loudly and vehemently. We still take it in. And hopefully, when we see them again, when they're calmer, we can say that was so interesting. So we're always looking to do that direct in person stuff. We also, at least once a year, conduct a survey of all of our guests. We do it for somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks in person at curbside. Plus, we call all of the households we've delivered to. We send the survey out to all of our volunteers, but we ask really interesting questions that help inform us. And then, of course, we always say if you have any feedback for us, please give it to us. One of the ways we do that is every single volunteer shift that somebody does, they receive an email afterwards asking them about their experience. For donors, we send handwritten thank you cards to our donors. We send out weekly updates for our community. So if somebody has feedback, they can come back that way. There are some gregarious people who do that. Is the tofu organic? Yes, it, the tofu is organic. What kind of canola oil are you using? And I love those people. I don't love their questions, but I love those people. And so I answer their questions to the best of my ability. And the other thing our brains are wired for is to see the problem and not always the solution. Like our brains are bored. We're always seeking for problems to solve, right? It lends to our disconnectedness. So we have to practice being connected. We have to practice training our brain to be like, no, that's not really a problem. Let's go focus on something good.
And it sounds like they're quite helpful, and you've evolved a lot over the last decade, and I suspect you will continue to.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is your wish for Stone Soup Cafe 10 years from now?
Oh, I would love it to be this vibrant hub where where all community members show up knowing that they belong where they are, that they can get what their needs are, that they can participate in community in whatever way they do, time, treasure, talent, teachings, whatever, that we're a place where that we're an organization that people trust, rely on, support, and that I'm retired. I probably will retire and volunteer, and they'll have to carry me out feet first out the door because this is, the work that we do is hard work, but it's heart work. It's my heart, right? It always fed my heart. And so thinking that I won't do it doesn't feel good for my heart. But knowing that the next generation of leadership has to come, that in order for an organization to be able to sustain itself and thrive, it means that you have to have the next plan and the next people and the next version. And so my board I've already asked them to create a transition plan. We need a sustainability plan. We need a transition plan. We need a growth plan. Let's work on it. And you don't find that founders do that very often. Like you create a business or you create an organization and you entrench yourself. It becomes your entire identity. And in many ways that's true for me. But I'm different in that I know that someday I'll be volunteering when they carry me out feet first. Right? And I'll just still be supporting rather than playing the lead role.
Right.
And that I will be one of many. But what I really want is for this organization to do the work of creating abundance and enoughness and having people find a way to end hunger in the county through whatever means. And that means helping them have conversations and connect with one another and becoming more of an us than ever.
Yeah. At the end of every episode, I ask the same 5 questions. Before we get there, is there anything I haven't asked you that I should have or that you want to share about Stone Soup Cafe before we move into that?
I don't think so. I think we have covered the gambit and so much more.
Well, before we do that, I just want to say that what you said, there is no us and them, there's only us. And that's kind of where I want to leave people before we move into these questions. I think if everyone can just take it in all the time and sit around the table, we're going to be in a really good place. Okay, so at the end of every episode, I ask my guests the same 5 questions. The first is, as we explore in my brand Amatand, which is French for to take care of your soul, objects can hold a lot of meaning for us. They can tie us to the past, enable us to enjoy the present, and sometimes even take us into the future. Can you share an object from your life, whether or not you still have it, that holds a lot of meaning for you, and tell us why?
So my grandfather, Max Gustav Joel, was he wrote books on gems and minerals. He owned a factory. He was a philatelist, a stamp collector. He's famous for all kinds of different things. He was a deep patriot. I never got to meet him. So I have his books. His wife also was a collector. She's part of the National Doll Association beginnings, and she wrote books. I have her books too. But years ago, my father gave me one of my grandfather's pieces. It is a jasper, green jasper frog. And I collect frogs, right? My dad is gone. My dad's been gone for 20 years, almost 21. And I have this frog. And when I take the frog out, I'm connected, not just because I love frogs and collect frogs, but because I'm connected to my father, who's connected to his father, who's connected to the earth, right? They're nimble, they're creative, but they're fragile and vulnerable too. So they're all the perfect things that make up what we humans are like too.
That's beautiful. Can you share a favorite tradition? It could be something from when you were a child or something you do with your son or something you do today, anything at all.
Oh, Lord. It's really interesting because there's a bunch of traditions that feel like they've fallen by the wayside. But a tradition that started in my childhood. So I'm the daughter of a Jewish man and a Christian woman. And I identify more with my Jewish roots than I do with my Christian roots. However, my mother started this thing when I was very young that on Christmas Eve we would have a party and people would decorate the Christmas tree. So I literally have done this for 60 years and we still do it for years. I'm married to a Jewish guy. We had a Hanukkah bush. Everything was blue and white because he was like, get that tree out of my house. And I was like, if I don't have a tree, my son doesn't come home. And I love my son to death. My Max is my world, my whole world. So now we go to Max and Christina's house and we decorate the tree and we have a big dinner for friends on Christmas Eve. And it's special. Like, every Mother's Day we go out and they come here or I go there and we go plant shopping for our gardens, right? And every Christmas Eve we have a party and we invite friends over for dinner. And she loves doing the Feast of the Seven Fishes. It's lots of fun. So yeah, tradition.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful. I love traditions. I love hearing about them. Are you in, well, this is kind of a funny question because you're constantly entertaining, but are you in a phase in your life where you enjoy entertaining in your home, not for Stone Soup Cafe? You may not have any more energy for it, but I'm interested.
I used to for years and years and years. And before COVID, we had at least some kind of gathering of our friends once a month. It's kind of whittled down to maybe 3 times a year, to be honest with you, because it is so busy. But I had the great honor of, I've been studying with a Native American grandmother, Strong Oak LaFave, and doing the walking and balance training with her, which is a wonderful circle practice of repair, conversation and repair. I've been in the group with them and I invited them to come for Passover dinner. So that was the last dinner we had, was the last night of Passover. We had 8 for dinner and it was wonderful. So, it's a lot of work, but then it's so like, who cares about the work? Again, it's hard work, but it's hard work, right? And it was just lovely to be with a group of people who I'd been learning beside and to be able to have another learning experience. Many of them had never been to a Passover. Some had, right? So it's just, yeah, I like to have one picnic a year, some kind of cookout. This year we're not doing it at my house. We're doing it on the town common because we turned 15. So on June 14th, we're having a big birthday bash out on the town common. And it's a volunteer appreciation and 15th birthday celebration in less than 2 weeks. So yeah, just all good stuff.
Yeah. Do you have one or two top resources? It could be books, websites, courses, podcasts, anything. It does not need to be related to what you're doing with Stone Soup Cafe. It could just be a favorite book or two. But if you do have some on mutual aid or anything, and we could also add those in the show notes if you have resources that you really like for some of the things that you guys are tackling.
So you're going to laugh at me. Who has time to read? I read all day long, right? I'm on websites and doing research and reading this, that, and the other. So first of all, for mutual aid, the resource book that you want to go to is written by Dean Spade, and it's called Mutual Aid. Yeah, and it's interesting because if I want to, you're gonna laugh at me, but if I want to be inspired, there's a little book full of like allegorical stories called Bucket Full of Dreams. They're really short. It's kind of like Chicken Soup for the Soul almost, but on a kid's level. And I know it's controversial, but I do think it's really important that we get back in touch with our inner child. And so I have been known to pick up my Dr. Seuss books and reread them. McGulligan's Pool is definitely one of the unsung heroes. Most recently, I went to Washington, D.C. to a national anti-hunger policy, right? And I did a day of lobbying on the Hill. I had never been to the Hill. I had never done a day of lobbying. I didn't know if it was for me. And I literally described it when I did debriefs that I was Yertle the Turtle. But I think the best podcasts and resources are the ones that my friends send me because they know that I need a lift.
One of the beautiful things about podcasts these days is it's hard to find. There's so many good ones and it's can be hard to find. So actually I think your friends sending you like just listen to
Yeah.
this episode
Yeah.
is actually
So cool.
really helpful. Friends do that with me and I do that with friends too. So I think that's great.
I will tell you, there is one episode. It's with Eve Marco. This is Bernie's widow, Eve Marco, Marko, and Jeff Bridges, and it's on aging. And it happened, I think they did it about 6 months ago.
Okay.
It's lovely.
Okay. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to get Bucket Full of Dreams. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's old. I don't even know if it's in print anymore. But
I'm
my
sure it
favorite
can be.
story is about the two frogs in the bucket of cream.
You used to read Frog and Toad books too?
No, bizarrely enough, not really. I did for my child. I read them to my child, of course, but when I was young, that's not what I read. I read Mr. Fox. I read Dr. Seuss. I read all of the Oz books. I had all of the Oz books, all of them, even the ones you've never heard of. Jack the Scarecrow, like seriously. The Patchwork Girl, like ridiculous. And Charlotte's and all the other things, Trump of the Swan, Charlotte, like I'm a 1964 baby, so I read a lot of old stuff.
Wow, they're just as good now.
Classic.
Last question. What do you do for yourself? You're extremely busy. Do you have a practice, a focus, a habit, or daily routine that you adhere to that contributes to your success and or your well-being?
You get to be a person of a certain age and your sleep patterns are often disturbed by things out of your control. So napping, like even if it's, you could write this report or you could take a 45-minute nap, absolutely nap. I've been focusing on my health, and so I've been on a journey for several years to become not obese. I'm intermittent fasting. I go to the gym as often as I can or take walks as often as I can, unless it's a catering day and I've already put in 13,000 steps. I think like those self-care things. And then there's something that I've been doing, and I don't know how it's working, but it is working, where I just am like, don't beat yourself up. And that has to be like teeny tiny baby steps. So, because you have this narrative, this voice in your head that says, how dare you take a nap? You have 16 things to do. You haven't done the laundry. Quite frankly, the laundry will wait. Your health and your rest is the most important thing you can do for yourself, besides spending time with people you love and doing things that you really value and care about.
Yeah. Well, Kirsten, thank you so much. It's been so wonderful talking with you. I can't wait to keep watching the story. I can't wait to hear about when you move into the building.
Oh, thank you so much, Ashley. What a joy.
On the Table with Ashley is presented by Amatond, an elevated, everyday, luxury home and tableware brand with products designed to cultivate connection. You can learn more about Amatond at ametendre.com or on Instagram at Amatond. By subscribing to our newsletter on the Amatond website, you'll receive updates on new episodes as well as promotions relating to Amatond and Amatond's products. Send us an email at reachoutanytime@amatond.com if you have ideas for guests or series ideas you'd like to pass along. Thanks for listening.